everybody's just kind of, me, well, I'm doing this, and you haven't auditioned for that, or you're not going to do, I don't know, it's just the pressure of being around others, and it just starts to kind of put you in this box of like, okay, we're all just doing the same thing, we're all especially with voice types, like.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Sing Simply, where through tips, tutorials, and interviews, we aim to simplify everything related to learning to sing. Now, today I've got the one and only Brandon Paul, who's a singer-songwriter based in LA. Thanks for coming onto the show, Brandon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Cool. All right. So I'd really like to start from the beginning. So you have got an insane voice. I've checked you out on Instagram. I think that's where we connected. Crazy, crazy voice. And I kind of wanted to see where this kind of journey of singing, like, how did it all start? Like, was it something that you naturally loved, or was there something that kickstarted it?
Sure. I want to say it came as like a natural thing. We kind of always grew up with like karaoke in the house, and like our parents were always, my dad was a DJ when I was younger on the side outside of his normal job. So he always had the kind of equipment around, and we would always just karaoke with them, dance to music, like as young children. So I want to say it was around 6 years old was when I started like imitating voices. I remember, it's kind of funny, Gwen Stefani's actually, her song Bananas, as funny as it is, it's not really like a, singy song, but I ended up copying her tone, and I tried to get that really, how is she doing that? How is she hitting this so easy at literally 6? So from there, it kind of started. I would always imitate voices. Like, it was my thing growing up. And then I feel like I didn't actually start taking voice more seriously until I was like 14, like around high school. I joined choir my sophomore year, and just, I don't know, I really kind of found a love for it, if you will. I really kind of honed in on it and started, learning more about vocal pedagogy, and got really interested in that, and just kind of,
Mm.
just kind of immersing myself in music as much as I possibly could. Because I don't know, the more I did that, the more I kind of found purpose in it.
Right. And you mentioned you were like kind of studying a lot of vocal pedagogy. Was this done like, how did you go about this? Was this like, have you ever worked with like a teacher before, or?
So I didn't actually have my first voice lesson until I was in college. It was, yeah.
In
So,
college,
and
right?
that was classical. So that was classical training. And it kind of, I mean, we can go more into that in a bit too. Like, it kind of it didn't help me as much, but I think it was more me just being young and misinterpreting information possibly. And I don't know, it didn't seem to help me. It
Right, right,
definitely
right.
hindered my pop singing, and then I never kind of clicked on how to sing classically. So
Right, right, right. So I mean, that kind of brings me to, so you mentioned, okay, maybe this didn't really quite help, but then what did? Like, was it more the imitating, like imitating different singers, being in that choir? What was that kind of clicked it for you?
so okay, so let's backtrack. After imitating voices, I feel that like I had an amount of control as a child with my voice. Now, that's not to say like, I knew it all, and I had my voice, all packaged up, but it was more like I understood my voice, and I understood, how to get certain sounds out, and that's simply what it was.
Right.
And after, I feel like I started studying maybe a little too much into vocal pedagogy and trying different things, and I don't know, I feel like I almost got lost in like, okay, where's that simple, just easy way to sing again? And studying classical, like I said, I feel like it just caused me to overthink singing, and constantly worrying about like, am I using too much air pressure? Like, it's just so many things. And
Mm, mm.
I ended up like back into pop singing. Like, whenever I would sing, I noticed that I'd start, just basically my voice went really off balance. It was really, I lost that balanced control. And I don't know, it really sent me on this whole journey of just like, what am I going to do? Like, I had no intentions of being an artist really at that point in my life. Joining college, I wanted to be a choir conductor. I really was
Wow.
obsessed
Okay.
with the harmonies in choir, and just the crunchiness of it all. And I love dissonance so much. So I was just like, man, like, I need to, continue to do this. And I want to teach other people how to, blend. I was just very intrigued by the human voice back then. And I still
Mm,
am, but, I was learning, I was learning. So from that point, I feel like it caused me to obviously get thrown off my track, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I started looking in, on YouTube. I started,
Mm.
reading articles online. I started looking into books. I was looking into Ken Bozeman is one that I can think of right off the
Yeah.
top of my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just kind of diving into those things, like how can I apply these things to my voice, and how can I get myself to understand them? And it wasn't always easy. It was always very, confusing, and very like, I'll ask a teacher this, and then another teacher, has something to say that goes against that. And so you kind of have to trust what feels good and what feels right and what is working in line with the path and the sounds that you're trying to make. You know
Mm.
what I mean?
Mm.
And
Mm.
so it's kind of just, I've worked with a lot of different teachers since then. And I feel like I just kind of always pick and choose the things that worked for me from them, rather than, oh, well, I have this new teacher and I have to, study exactly the way that they are telling me. You get me? It's just kind of picking and choosing the information that really applies to you and works for your voice.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get that because I've gone through a similar process where like you work through with you work through with countless teachers, and a lot of them will kind of almost like impose like a certain style like technique on upon you, right? But I think for my style, and I guess me as a teacher now, my kind of goal is always about one, can I establish vocal efficiency? So making sure that they're able to make the sounds easily and it makes it feels good, right? Make sure it feels good, but then ultimately, right, then have to assist them on, okay, well, what sort of sounds do you want? I've given you all the toolkits, right? All the different sounds you want to make. Now you kind of tell me which sounds you want to make and I'll guide you there. I think that's the kind of approach. And I think hopefully, right, I think the community should move more towards that, especially like CCM, right? Because not every song nowadays is a classical aria. It just isn't the case anymore.
Right.
But it doesn't mean we disregard what we've learned there. It's just we might have to adapt things a bit more. So
Definitely.
I'd like to jump on to the next thing because one of the things I really loved about your voice was your runs. Where did you learn to do that? Like, was it something that once again did it come natural, or was it more something you kind of developed like through YouTube videos, or like even like what happened there?
So when I was younger, I mean, I've always loved R&B music. My parents, I grew up listening to what they listened to, which was like, 80s pop, 90s, 2000s R&B, and lots of pop music. But yeah,
Mm,
so I just kind of imitated those songs and, the riffs within them that the actual artist, would have in those songs. But from there, I mean, I remember thinking in my head, like, I feel like these aren't clean, like I feel like I'm just sliding through notes at this point. And it didn't really I didn't develop the precision, my ear for precision, until like high school. And actually who helped me do that was, I'm sure you know of her, Natalie Weiss, like
but yes.
vocal coach. Yes, so she had Breaking Down the Riffs back then. It was like really popular. I mean, I'm sure everybody listening is familiar with it. It's, we've all been there, we've all learned the Halo riff, we've all learned all of those. So I went through all of her videos and I would just sit there for hours and do the riff over and over. My family
Mm.
literally wanted to kill me. They were over it. They were like, man, like you got it already. It's done. I'm like, no, like it needs to be cleaner. And it wasn't that, I wasn't having fun. It was actually so much fun for me to just kind of count out these notes. And little by little, evolved from Natalie Weiss listening to those videos and started listening to actual songs. Like, what is
Mm.
this person doing? What notes are they hitting? Okay, there's 22 notes in this riff. Let's count them out. Let's plunk them out on the piano. I used to literally write out all the individual notes on a piece of
Mm.
paper before I
Mm.
developed the knowledge of scales and all these things. So, I mean, I've come a long way with that, but really it's about just kind of counting the notes and getting as accurate as possible, and wrapping the vowel around that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So that's absolutely awesome. So really, right, it's very deliberate. You kind of have to like literally plunk it out on a piano, and then also just kind of, I mean, like eventually you kind of have to train that muscle memory in. I did kind of have one. So what I kind of the way I approached a lot of these kind of runs for a lot of my clients is
Yeah.
kind of understanding the pentatonic scale a bit more because a
Yes.
lot of it is based off the pentatonic, right? So I've been kind of training them to get familiar with that scale first. Just do these kind of basic maneuvers, right? And then that's already a starting point because you start trying to string things together. And a lot of these really complex runs, like, oh my gosh, they sound so overwhelming at first. But if you break them down, there is a pattern to it. And I think that's what you've done really well, Brandon.
Thank you
Right.
so much.
So I'd like to jump on to the next part. So we've already kind of touched upon this. I know there's been a couple of like pivotal moments in your career. Now, this one kind of hits home because personally for me, I never went through like a formal kind of route of education. I kind of worked through a lot of kind of people like from Singing Success, those kind of guys. Now, it's so interesting for me that you decided to take this route, but then not go through with it. Um, it must not have been an easy choice. I'd love for you to maybe tell me a bit more about it.
Definitely. Yeah, that was one of the toughest choices I feel on my journey. It kind of, how do I even go about this? Wow. I like started out, so like I said, I wanted to be a choral conductor, and I feel like deep inside, um, being flat on honest, like deep inside in high school, I mean, I was always told like, wow, you're really good. Wow, you're really clean. You're really this. And so I feel like it was a bit of maybe an ego thing or what. I just kind of came in. I was always trying to be like, the nicest to people and whatnot. But on the inside, I feel like I was always trying to prove something. I was always
Mm,
trying to be like, okay, I can do this. Like people think I'm, great. I can live up to that. Or some people think I'm not, I can prove them wrong. And just that kind of mindset and that kind of energy can only get you so far.
yeah,
It,
yeah,
it kind of started to hinder on me when, I'd make certain friend groups and, everybody in that friend group, you know, um, weren't necessarily the nicest to me about my singing. Yeah. And
mm,
so
mm,
things just kind of I started getting in my own head a lot and letting others' opinions really affect everything. And that's what I was going to say is clearly leaving high school, I was thriving off of the how do you say the approval of others.
yeah, yeah,
And I was thriving off of the approval of others rather than just being comfortable within myself. And that really showed when the approval of others excuse me, the approval of others didn't, I wasn't getting that anymore in that
yeah,
environment in college. And the pressure of being around others, and it just starts to kind of put you in this box of like, okay, we're all just doing the same thing. We're all especially with voice types, like that's another story we can hop into in
yeah.
a second. But continuing with this, it's like it just started to really weigh down on me, and I kind of lost motivation to do music. I ended up dropping out of a lot of the ensembles I was in. I just started to slowly feel myself just losing myself
Mm,
completely, just
mm,
like I didn't want to do anything anymore. And I felt like, you know what, like whatever, college is fun and I'm just gonna, party and who cares? Like it's fine. Like I'm gonna make it through. But deep down, I was like, I'm so lost. I don't know what I'm doing with my life.
right.
Literally, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's really loved, and I thought coming into college I was gonna feel really, aligned with this path, and I wasn't. So
Mm,
what I did is I talked to a few teachers that actually weren't musical at all. They were, my math teachers, my certain teachers that I just felt that vibe that I could confide in them. And
mm,
I just told them, hey, like, this is what I'm doing. I'm writing my own music. I've been singing all my life. I've been doing music all my life. And I just feel like, this is something that can definitely, carry me on, but I'm also really scared. I don't think, can I do this? Just constantly doubting and questioning myself. But at the same time, deep inside, I always knew that this is what I wanted to do.
mm,
So a lot of those teachers were like, hey, of course we don't want to see you go and we don't want to, say that you don't need college, but sounds like you know what you're doing. Sounds like you know what you need to do, and follow your heart kind of thing. So I was like, all right. And so I finished out that semester and I said, college will always be here. I can always come back and check back in and finish off. But right now my heart is somewhere else and I'm tired of like holding myself here, So
mm, mm.
from that semester I was like, Mom, this is the mom and dad, they were the big ones that I was like, man, if I tell you guys, I really hope that you, accept this, and it was hard. We had a conversation and, after, a little bit of just kind of them hearing me out and the things I wanted, they both were like, you know what? Yeah, like we believe in you, like follow your heart. So I left and I like totally my friends in college, like a lot of the ones, the right friends, were like, you're doing the right thing for yourself and you clearly already seem happier. And, it's been almost 2 years since then, or, almost. And I
Mm.
feel like a whole new person. I feel like the person back then was just, like I said, trying to seek approval from others and trying to make everybody around him happy. And now I feel I've come really in line with what I'm supposed to be doing, So that's kind of that.
Yeah, and I mean, thank you for sharing that, Brandon. And I almost like really understand that because I was always into singing, like into music. I started quite a while back, but I actually, I don't know, like I'm Asian, right? So my family comes from this kind of strong heritage of you must go to college, you must kind of study, you must kind of get like this particular job, right? And I actually spent maybe the first 2 to 3 years of my kind of like adult life in a corporate role.
Yeah.
So I was working at several big companies, just doing this kind of thing. And then there comes a point where you have to kind of realize, oh, this isn't for you. And then I think I had that chat with my parents as well. Okay, mom, dad, I don't think this is for me. And for them, right, like they've invested this time, this effort into you. And there's quite a bit of shock there, a bit of a shock factor there. But I think you're right. Like sometimes you have to do what you need to do. I think that's so important. And guess what? I mean, I've heard some. I guess we've seen some pretty exciting things come up for you. So I mean, I'd like to talk about that. So I heard you got the chance to work with Tim Davis, and so for those who don't know, he was a vocal arranger for Glee, right? Talk to me
Yeah.
a bit about more about this experience. That sounds so exciting.
Yeah, so it was probably actually during this little transition of college. It was I want to say like August 2018. A friend of mine who actually had worked with Tim Davis before in her life, actually for I think something to do with Glee, and so she was like, "You need to meet him. Like, you need to work with him. He's amazing. He like is really nurturing." And I'm like, "Ooh." Like scared, no, like that's I can't. And so there's this thing that he puts on, every few months. They're called SSIs, Studio Singer Intensives.
Right.
So they're basically just like boot camps for those of us who want to get into the session singing world and background singing, all those types of things in movies and shows. So you just kind of um, sorry, basically his SSI online, I had saw that, he was having one and my friend sent that to me and I go, you know what? Like I I kind of want to do it, but I don't think I'm ready. I don't think I'm ready. So I didn't
Right.
do that one. Comes up right when I had decided to leave college, that literally probably a couple days after I made that decision, actually, I had seen another ad for the next SSI. And I was
Uh-huh.
like, this time I saw it myself, and I don't know, there was no like, pressure of anybody being like, hey, you should, that's I was, you should do this. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to take the chance and I think I'm just going to do it. And the worst that happens, like the literal worst thing is he's just like, you can improve on this, this, and this. And like, why would that be bad? So I was like, I'm just going to go with an open mind and just, see what's up. So I had registered, he sent me the music that we were going to be working on. And I showed up, and man, I learned so much that first SSI. I mean, he dives into, you know, blending, the certain amount of air that you're using for your tone, like just so many different things to get those singers to really unify and blend and just make
Mm,
incredible sounds. So that was really awesome. I got to work with him at Henson Recording Studios here in LA. So that was awesome. Like just being there, I was like, wow, I can't believe, like, what the heck? How did I even, like, how am I here?
yeah.
So yeah, that was awesome. Tim Davis is awesome.
Nice. And does he dive into a lot of the technical side, like for example, like going to your mixed voice, all these kind of technical parts, or is it more just you guys all sing really amazing? Let's kind of use them together better. Like, what's the process like? I mean, obviously, maybe something's confidential, but like, tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely more, definitely kind of a
A
mix of
mix, interesting.
kind of a mix of the two. It's kind of like some of the singers are more just natural. They've just been singing all their
Yeah.
lives and they've never really taken any, music theory courses or anything like that, or music vocal pedagogy or anything like that. So they just kind of grew up, took their lessons, nurtured their voices, and they just show up and they sing. A lot of them sing by ear these parts. They're not just given sheet music. So I mean, like I said, it's a mixed environment. So I feel that he doesn't necessarily touch on like specific terms of like use this, but it's more like give me more bite in that sound, or give me airiness, give me more meat to that. And it's crazy because you would think like, but how do people know how to do that? It's insane. We all just kind of adapt to each other, like, okay, we know what sound we're going for, and
Mm,
it just
mm,
it works. And it's like I said, it just kind of taught me really a lot, not just about like how to blend with people and how to get the job done in the session
mm,
world, but really
mm.
how to record myself as an artist. It really helped me with, getting to know. I know he uses Ableton as
Right.
his,
Yeah.
or Pro Tools. I'm so sorry,
Pro
Pro
Tools. Yeah.
Tools. I know he uses Pro Tools, so that was something that like I mean, even now, Pro Tools is like rocket sciencey to me. So I still use Logic, but he's taught me a lot of things on how to like just hear when your vocals clipping. Just I could go for hours on the things he has really taught me. So yeah, and I've only gotten to work with him. I'd say I did 3 SSIs last year, and so that was awesome. And through that first one, I got called back for there was an event for the Grammys. It was the Music Hairs event last year for tributing to Dolly Parton.
Mhm.
So yeah, I got called back for that to do background vocals in the choir for Leon Bridges and Mavis Staples. And that was actually only after my first SSI. So I was very, nervous, very scared for that.
Now,
But
I mean, tell me a bit about that, because I think that was a almost like a big kind of hallmark in your singing career so far. I mean, like,
definitely.
do they kind of just call you, then you audition, or like how does this whole process work?
Sure. So with this, I actually just received an email from
Oh,
Tim and I was like, oh, like what's going on? And he was like, yeah, like would you guys like to do this? I need some singers for this. And so I just kind of responded like, yes, I want to do that, like for sure. It actually ended up being on a day that I had work and I was like, you know what? Like, I don't care what I'm doing. Like, I'm dropping everything. I need to do this. Like, how cool.
priorities, priorities.
So yeah. So I mean, I did that and I mean, it was definitely something that I feel like was very surreal, like getting up that day, driving, to the convention center and just like all those things. It was just like, am I really here right now? Like, how did I even get here? I just left college, like not even, that long ago. Like, how am I here? But that just was even more affirming for me and more reassuring that, I was on the right path and that I'm like, okay, like I'm doing this. So being there actually was insane because he gave us the music probably like a week and a half before, and we just showed up and kind of did it. And we just got on the stage when we were needed to. And other than that, we got to hang out and like backstage. And backstage was just so many big names that they just walk right by you and you're like, wait, like what? Like I swear I was in awe. I was literally sitting there like, what am I doing here? Like, how did I get here? But it was really, really fun. So we just got to, get on stage and we got to rehearse a little bit before. And, Leon Bridges and Mavis Staples were actually very, very, kind and welcoming. It wasn't, I feel like there's this big stigma around, LA and like the Hollywood world of like, ooh, people are just so stuck up, which I mean, sometimes can be, but in this case, I was very happy with like, the way that everybody was just so welcoming and so, we're here all to get the job done. It was very professional, very professional. So yeah, it was a very fun time.
That sounds incredible, and I'd like to kind of point out. I mean, a lot of this really stemmed from you almost kind of trying to hang out with the right crowd, if I might say that. For example,
Yeah,
maybe the people in college, right? They aren't the crew that you kind of want to hang out with because they've got their own aspirations. But then
yeah,
you deciding to take on this new pathway, you took on the approach, you went to this SSI with Tim Davis, and all of a sudden, right, this has led you to singing with these incredible artists, right? And I'm curious to see what else is going to happen, right? Because I'm sure you've met some people there. There's probably going to be some opportunities to work together further. So that's incredible. Now,
thank you.
I'd love to jump onto some of your own original music. We haven't really talked about that, and I'd love to dive into that a bit more. So, you've released 2 singles so far. You've got "Grown" and "My Mind." I
Yeah,
actually had to listen to it, and I thought it was insane. The main thing that really stuck out to me was the lyrics, because I think in my mind, one of the lines that really stuck out to me was, "I'm trying to find the real me."
yeah.
Now, if it's okay with you, would you mind kind of sharing a bit more about the song? Maybe like how you made it, what it means for you, anything about the song, really?
Definitely. So again, around that same time of feeling really lost, I was suffering from a lot of anxiety and a lot of panic attacks, like a lot of just not being happy with yourself and just your mind is just so consumed by like just the daily things of just I don't know, you just start really it's almost like you start to feel bad for yourself a little bit and you're
Mm,
just kind of lost and you don't know. I really lost sight of my purpose truly because
mm,
music had always been that and I feel like that was taken from me for a little moment, but in the long run it made me appreciate it a lot more.
right,
So
right.
that song specifically, I was having a panic attack in the middle of the night, around like 1 a.m. I remember it was really late, and I woke up and I just felt like I couldn't breathe. I was literally just like panicking. And I got up and I sat at my piano and I just started playing because I don't know, I love to play piano. It just helps me just like relax. And so I just started playing, and the first chord was that B minor chord that I
B
played.
minor.
And I was like, and I just started like, I kept playing and I started humming and that melody. And the lyrics literally came out in that moment of that panic
Wow.
attack. The beginning, there are days where I don't know where I'm going or how I'm here.
Mm.
And from that moment, I feel like that song evolved, a little bit, but that was how it originated, was that night, just kind of, it was more of a venting thing. And then I, took it, and I realized, the beauty in being vulnerable. So I think that from there, as I started to heal, I started to realize
Mm.
that, maybe this can help others.
And I mean, that's very powerful. Thanks again for sharing, Brandon. And I think that's a beautiful thing
Thank you.
about music, right? It's sometimes trying to capture moments in our life where you can't necessarily put it into like proper words. But that's incredible, incredible. Okay. Now I'd love to hear a bit more about what's in plan for you. So, I mean, you've written these incredible songs. There's such kind of a backstory to it, but I know there's so much for you. So, what's next for you, Brandon?
So I'm still writing, and I'm trying to get these songs actually that I have ready to go recorded.
Mm,
But with COVID and all this stuff going on, it's kind of a challenge. But I definitely will be recording new music. I also am like working on building up my own students and my own studio, because I was actually teaching at a small music school here, and I recently had left that, just again, just doing what I need to do for me and my path. So
yeah.
I'm starting to work on that. I'm trying to dive in more with YouTube and social media, and trying to get myself out there more now that, like I said, I feel like more so during this quarantine, it's given me a lot of time to just sit with myself and really just grow, and like
Mm,
just try and figure out what do I want to do from here. And mostly just trying to muster up the confidence to do it.
mm,
And that's really what it's about, is just you know being vulnerable and being open, and just being honest with what you love to do and what you want to do. And that's what I'm trying to do. So definitely more of that, and just trying to get myself more out there. So thank you so much for this. Like, this is awesome that you're doing this for artists. So thank you so much.
my pleasure. It's always been like I've always loved podcasting, and I'd love kind of just meeting new people and learning more about their journeys, right? Because everyone has their own individual stories that they can tell, just like what you've got, which has been incredible. Thank you for coming on. I mean, that's it's always a pleasure.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, well, one thing I would love to do for a lot of our audience is we've kind of gone through a lot of things so far. For someone who's just beginning on their kind of singing journey, what's kind of one little actionable step they can take today that we can leave them with? Is there anything that you might have?
definitely. I'd say that there's a couple things I would say. First of all,
Mm,
um, even practice, just
mm,
practice often, practice a lot. I think that sometimes when we think we have to practice, we think of this big like mission of like an hour or 2 hours of like getting it. But I think that, small, like 15-minute, 20-minute, deliberate, like putting in work, say you're learning a riff, like just, breaking that down, or, taking small steps. I had an instructor once tell me when, around the time that I was feeling really, anxious and like overwhelmed, she was like, how do you eat an elephant? And I was like, what? Like, what are you trying to
yes.
say? She's like, how do you eat an elephant? And I was like, I what? She goes, one bite at a time. Why would
Mm,
you look at, something that is so big and try to get yourself to complete this task? Like, you know what I mean? You want to take tiny steps. So just know that your voice it truly is a gift, number one. Number two, it really is a journey.
mm,
My
mm,
voice is, still at the beginning of its journey, if you will. It's still developing. And
mm,
so
mm,
is yours. And I think that we all just need to realize that we're all learning. We are all learning. You need to learn to enjoy all parts of the journey. The parts where you're frustrated with your voice, all of those times, like they're telling you something. You know, the times that I was frustrated with my voice, you know, my voice was telling me, hey, you're probably not doing this right. Like,
Mm,
take a break for today, chill out, and, you know, come back to it tomorrow. And like,
mm.
you know, your voice is always, I mean, it's like I said, it's a journey. It's always telling you something. So I think that just be really patient with yourself. And if you love it enough, you'll definitely continue with it and you'll definitely push through, you know?
Exactly, exactly. And I kind of want to kind of call out for our audience. You don't have to go through this alone. I mean, like ultimately,
Definitely.
right? A voice teacher there is there to support you and kind of guide you to what you need to do. So if you are feeling kind of like frustrated with your voice, you're not alone. There are other people. We've gone through like a lot of mistakes, a lot of kind of those
Definitely.
learnings, right? And really, as a voice teacher, it's not about me going, I'm perfect, I can do all this right. It's more about, hey, I've gone through all these mistakes, just like what you've done. I'd like to share some of what I've learned. Why not give it a go?
Right.
So yeah, totally. So anyway, thank you so much for your time, Brandon. It's been incredible having you on, which has been it's just been so much fun. I love chatting with people in the industry, just so I can
Yeah.
learn more myself as well, right? Now, before we end, where can our audience find you?
So you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Paul Music. You can find me on Instagram at Brandon Paul Music _ and those are really, and Spotify, Apple Music, all streaming platforms. It's just Brandon Paul. I have 2 singles out, like we said earlier, Grown and My Mind. So you guys can stream those there as well. And yeah, so that's pretty much that. And also thank you so much for, you know, giving me the opportunity to come on here and get to know you. I've been watching your stuff for a while now. I actually had a couple of friends send me some of your videos before, and so that's how I found you. And I just followed because I loved your stuff and how like in depth you get,
Mm.
and the easy results you get with your students too in your
Mm.
videos. So thank you so much. I'm like honored to be here, and it's really great meeting you too. You're freaking awesome. So thank you.
Likewise, thank you very, very, very much.